Hi everyone, and welcome to this tutorial video. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to draw a hood in front view. In this video I'm using a mechanical pencil with HB leads, but don't worry about the equipment you're using. As long as you have a pencil and paper, you'll be able to recreate this. I'm going to try and base the style of this drawing on the Assassin's Creed drawings that I've previously worked on, with the hood covering part of the character's face, and so you only see from the nose downwards. This is a nice way of cutting down on the details you need to add. So before I started recording this video, I sketched a basic outline of a character's face from the nose downwards. I began by sketching the inner edges of the hood, and at this point the lines were very relaxed and I wasn't worrying about placing any precise lines at this point. It was all about getting the basic idea of the shape of the hood. The fabric of the hood is always going to be moving and changing in shape, so you don't have to worry about placing it in an exact way. So just follow a nice flow around the outside of the face, and make sure to have it low enough to be covering almost part of the eyes. It's going to be just above the eyes, so we can add some shadow below it. When it comes to sketching the outer edges of the hood, it's important to consider the size of the character's head and where that would be underneath the fabric of the hood. Also thinking about the way that the fabric would flow over the head with some ridges and folds, especially along the sides of the head and along the shoulders. At this point I also started figuring out where I wanted to add some seams to make the fabric seem realistic and to add that kind of design that you'd expect in a kind of Assassin's Creed drawing. So I added a seam going along the top of the head and a couple of horizontal seams going along around the inner edges of the hood. With all of the basic outlines completed, it was time to move on to the shading, and I started off by shading the face and the inside of the hood. So I added some extremely dark shading around the inside edges of the hood, especially underneath the top of the hood and around the eyes, to keep that part of the drawing completely shaded, so you don't have to focus on the details of the eyes. It's nice to have them completely in the shade and not have to worry about those details. All of the Assassin's Creed characters have this kind of characteristic of having their eyes hidden, and I think this makes this character look like that kind of assassin style. I used blending sticks to help smooth the shading around the face, especially along the edges of the cheeks and along the nose. I wanted to show some highlighted areas to contrast with the dark shading, and I figured out that I wanted the light source to be from the left, and so I made sure the left side of the nose was completely highlighted, and along part of the chin and the lips. I made sure to add some extremely dark shading around the neck and the jaw and alongside the outer edges of the face. And this is a great way of adding contrast and really making sure that those highlighted areas really push out from the page. It's a great way to add some extra depth to the drawing and to make the character stand out by having the darkened areas really contrasting with the highlighted areas. With the shading of the inner portion of the hood completed, it was time to move on to the shading of the fabric of the hood. And I started off by shading the right side of the head. This is the area that is going to be in the most shade when thinking about the light source being on the left side of the drawing. So the right side needs to be much darker than the left. In this case, I started off by adding some really basic shading to begin with and using the blending stick just to get some idea of how dark I wanted this area to be. Making sure to add some darkened areas, contrasting with some highlighted areas. I find that it helps to have some of the highlighted areas alongside the darkened areas to really show that contrast and show that kind of crumpled effect of the fabric. When you consider the way the light is hitting the hood, it's important to think that the shadows would be cast on the right side of any highlighted area. And so any areas of the hood that you want to push forward, you would need to add some darker shading to the right side of that to help boost the realism and the 3D effect. I also found this rule helpful when adding the seams to the hood by focusing the shading on the right side of the seam and having the left side of the seam highlighted. It's a very effective way of adding some depth to a drawing. I focused the same idea on the left side of the drawing, but I made sure to add some more highlights, and the overall shading on the left side of the hood is much lighter. To help boost the effects of the highlights, I made sure to use a small eraser. This can really be helpful when you want to control where you want the highlighted areas, especially along the edges of any creases in the fabric or along any of the seams, or that kind of thing. I continued on with the drawing and then added the final details to the lower parts of the hood, making sure to follow the seams along and add some highlights along the top edges of them. The highlighted seams really worked well against the darkened inner part of the hood. I made sure to add some extra highlights along the top edges of the shoulders, especially on the left side of the drawing, and trying to focus the highlighted areas along there. And I also added some darkened shading between the folds where the shoulder meets the hood. And this is a great way in general of defining the shape of the hood and the shoulder area. The most important thing about a drawing like this is to direct where the shading and the highlights go. And I think I've probably spoken about it loads in this video. Considering where your light source is a hugely important thing in a drawing like this, and I had to keep reminding myself that the light source was on the left side and focusing all the highlights like that. So if the light source was directly in front of him, then the highlights would be much more evenly distributed. And then if the light source was on the right side of the drawing, then all of the highlighted areas would be focused on the right side of his hood, and then the darkened areas would actually be on the left side. So a drawing like this can be a great way to practice that kind of thing, and as well as thinking about the folds in the fabric and practicing that kind of thing. I love drawing characters like this. I especially love working on Assassin's Creed drawings, so working on this tutorial was really fun, and hopefully I'll work on a drawing of a hood from the side view to give a new perspective as well. I really hope this video is helpful in some way, and if you work on anything similar, then feel free to show me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. If you enjoy videos like this, then make sure you're subscribed, and any likes or shares on this video are hugely appreciated, and it really means a lot to me. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and follow along with the progress photos throughout the week, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below. And once again, thank you so much for the support on this channel. It really means a lot to me, and I have so much fun working on these videos. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all soon.